Hey guys, good morning. It is Wednesday, November 15th, 2017, and the November Video Marathon rolls on. November Video Marathon 2017. This is your host, Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine. Um, I am very, very tired because I've been tortured very badly lately with constant voice to skull 24 hours a day, most of it chatterbox conversation, and also just horrible headaches. And I slept today, and they were really kind of, it felt like electrocuting my legs, but it was really, most likely just kind of shooting directed energy microwaves to the muscles. Or remote neural manipulation to my nerves down to my legs. But so I'm really tired. They're kind of using remote neural manipulation to make me tired. That's their new tactic. This month, which they don't usually do a lot. They usually focus on the torture. But I think if they can make me seriously tired, that maybe I'll make worse videos. But I'm always tired, so the show must go on. I want to connect some more dots, and it's about 5:15 a.m. in the morning where I am. I want to connect some more dots with the history of non-consensual human experimentation, just to kind of connect some more dots for non-TIs, and also to strengthen our arsenal of things that we can talk about, guys, and that we do talk about, but just kind of go over them, things that I'm going through, and since I have the whole month, go through the history of MK Ultra, and patents and things like that, and certain things that have happened in history, like the stuff that happened in the Moscow microwave attack that I did on a previous video. But let me just get into it. I kind of just want to read what Wikipedia has on Project MK Ultra, and there's some good articles that I hope I can get to. I hate putting the videos into parts. I wish I could just put it all out in one long thing, but I can't upload to the computer. So let's just go ahead and start. Project MK Ultra, also called the CIA Mind Control Program, is the code name given to a program of experiments on human subjects, at times illegal, designed and undertaken by the United States Central Intelligence Agency. Experiments on humans were intended to identify and develop drugs and procedures to be used in interrogations and torture in order to weaken the individual to force confessions through mind control. Organized through the Scientific Intelligence Division of the CIA, the project coordinated with the Special Operations Division of the U.S. Army's Chemical Corps. The operation began in the early 1950s, was officially sanctioned in 1953, was reduced in scope in 1964, further curtailed in 1967, and officially halted in 1973. The program engaged in many illegal activities, including the use of unwitting U.S. and Canadian citizens as its test subjects, which led to controversy regarding its legitimacy. And I'm going to go down a little bit. And it's a lot of information, so I might jump around a little bit. Let's see. MK Ultra used numerous methodologies to manipulate. I'm trying to kind of get it linked up with my camera there. MK Ultra used numerous methodologies to manipulate people's mental states and alter brain functions, including the surreptitious administration of drugs, especially LSD and other chemicals, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, isolation, and verbal abuse, as well as other forms of psychological torture. A lot of these forms of psychological torture that we used in MK Ultra are being used on targeted individuals through remote means, and directed energy weapons, V2K, something called synthetic telepathy, and remote neural manipulation, isolation through gang stalking, and telling lies about them in the community, sensory deprivation, which is part of isolation, and messing with our senses with remote neural manipulation. Hypnosis also is a big part of what they can do with remote neural manipulation. The scope of Project MKUltra was broad, with research undertaken at 80 institutions, including 44 colleges and universities, as well as hospitals, prisons, and pharmaceutical companies. The CIA operated through these institutions using front organizations, although sometimes top officials at these institutions were aware of the CIA's involvement. As the U.S. Supreme Court later noted in CIA v. Sims 471 U.S. 159 in 1985, MKUltra was concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. The program consisted of some 149 sub-projects, which the agency contracted out to various universities, research foundations, and similar institutions. At least 80 institutions and 185 private researchers participated. Because the agency funded MKUltra indirectly, many of the participating individuals were unaware that they were dealing with the agency, and that is the CIA. Although the Supreme Court sided with the CIA that sources' names could be redacted for their protection, it nonetheless validated the existence of MKUltra to be used in future court cases and confirmed that the CIA for 14 years performed clandestine experiments on human behavior. Between 1953 and 1966, the Central Intelligence Agency financed a wide-ranging project codenamed MKUltra concerned with the research and development of chemical, biological, and radiological materials capable of employment in clandestine operations to control human behavior. Project MKUltra was first brought to public attention in 1975 by the Church Committee of the U.S. Congress and a Gerald Ford Commission to investigate CIA activities within the United States. Investigative efforts were hampered by the fact that CIA Director Richard Helms ordered all MKUltra files destroyed in 1973. The Church Committee and Rockefeller Commission investigations relied on the sworn testimony of direct participants and on the relatively small number of documents that survived Helms' destruction order. In 1977, a Freedom of Information Act request uncovered a cache of 20,000 documents related to Project MKUltra, which led to Senate hearings later the same year. In July 2001, some surviving information regarding MKUltra was declassified. 44 American colleges or universities, 15 research foundations or chemical or pharmaceutical companies including Sandoz, now Novartis, and Eli Lilly and Company, 12 hospitals or clinics, in addition to those associated with universities, and 3 prisons are known to have participated in MKUltra. So I'll go to the background. In 1945, the Joint Intelligence Objectives Agency was established and given direct responsibility for Operation Paperclip. The program recruited former Nazi scientists, some of whom had been identified and prosecuted as war criminals during the Nuremberg trials. MKUltra. The project's intentionally obscure CIA cryptonym is made up of the digraph MK, meaning the project was sponsored by the agency's technical services staff, followed by the word Ultra, which had previously been used to designate the most secret classification of World War II intelligence. Other related cryptonyms included Project MK Naomi and Project MK Delta. Headed by Cindy Gottlieb, the MKUltra project was started on the order of CIA Director Alan Welsh Dulles on April 13, 1953. Its aim was to develop mind-controlling drugs for use against the Soviet bloc, largely in response to alleged Soviet, Chinese, and North Korean use of mind control technologies on U.S. prisoners of war in Korea. The CIA wanted to use similar methods on their own captives. The CIA was also interested in being able to manipulate foreign leaders with such techniques, and would later invent several schemes to drug Fidel Castro. Experiments were often conducted without the subject's knowledge or consent. In some cases, academic researchers being funded through grants from CIA front organizations were unaware that their work was being used for these purposes. The project attempted to produce a perfect truth drug for use in interrogating suspected Soviet spies during the Cold War, and generally to explore any other possibilities of mind control. Another MK Ultra effort, Subproject 54, was the Navy's top-secret Perfect Concussion program, which was supposed to use subaural frequency blasts to erase memory. Let's read that again. Another MK Ultra effort, Subproject 54, was the Navy's top-secret Perfect Concussion program, which was supposed to use subaural frequency blasts to erase memory. However, the program was never carried out. Till today. Because most MK Ultra records were deliberately destroyed in 1973 by order of the CIA Director Richard Helms, it has been difficult, if not impossible, for investigators to gain a complete understanding of the more than 150 individually funded research sub-projects sponsored by MK Ultra and related CIA programs. The project began during a period of what Rupert Cornwell described as paranoia at the CIA, when the U.S. had lost its nuclear monopoly and fear of communism was at its height. James Jesus Angleton, head of CIA counterintelligence, believed that the organization had been penetrated by a mole at the highest levels. The agency poured millions of dollars into studies examining methods of influencing and controlling the mind, and of enhancing their ability to extract information from resistant subjects during interrogation. Some historians have asserted that creating a Manchurian candidate subject through mind control techniques was a goal of MK Ultra and related CIA projects. Alfred McCoy has claimed that the CIA attempted to focus media attention on these sorts of ridiculous programs so that the public would not look at the primary goal of the research, which was developing effective methods of torture and interrogation. Such authors cite as one example the CIA's Kubark interrogation manual refers to studies at McGill University, and that most of the techniques recommended in Kubark are exactly those that researcher Donald Ewan Cameron used on his test subjects: sensory deprivation, drugs, isolation, psychic driving, etc., etc. Now that name, Donald Ewan Cameron, is very important. The things that he was researching were rolled into what they are doing to target individuals with directed energy weapon systems. So remember that name, Donald Ewan Cameron. I know a lot of TIs know that name, but if you're a non-TI, that's a very important name in the history of what led to what is happening to us now. One 1955 MK Ultra document gives an indication of the size and range of the effort. This document refers to a study of an assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows. And it's weird. I hear the tinnitus like ringing in my ears right now, and I just heard a voice on my V2K go, "Do it, do it." So they're turning, and then I heard the tinnitus like sound turned up in my ears because they're trying to distract me so that I won't think clearly and be able to make these videos clearly. So the show will go on. The show must go on because we've got to stop this stuff. It's so evil. But okay, so assortment of mind-altering substances described as follows. Substances which will promote illogical thinking and impulsiveness to the point where the recipient would be discredited in public. That's what they're doing to me now with directed energy weapon systems. But they're talking about here, I think more chemicals. Substances which increase the efficiency of mentation and perception. Materials which will cause the victim to age faster or slower in maturity. Materials which will promote the intoxicating effect of alcohol. Materials which will produce the signs and symptoms of recognized diseases in a reversible way so that they may be used for malingering, etc. Materials which will cause temporary or permanent brain damage and loss of memory. Substances which will enhance the ability of individuals to withstand privation, torture, and coercion during interrogation and so-called brainwashing. Materials and physical methods which will produce amnesia for events preceding and during their use. Physical methods of producing shock and confusion over extended periods of time and capable of surreptitious use. Substances which produce physical disablement such as paralysis of the legs, acute anemia, etc. Substances which will produce a chemical that can cause blisters. Substances which alter personality structure in such a way that the tendency of the recipient to become dependent upon another person is enhanced. A material which will cause mental confusion of such a type that the individual under its influence will find it difficult to maintain